Hi folks, it's been a long time now since I've done a video, but we are back with the dark nights in the UK, and as you can see I've got plenty here to be having a go at and showing you over the next few weeks, come months. That's my kind of starter collection, if you like. I've got a few more tucked away. So what shall we start with? Let's pick those up and I'll go to my desk and we'll kick off with the first review. And now I'm actually holding the wrong torch here. This is the Through Night TN36 pop can design torch. One of my favourites of this design. I've done a review on this. Go and have a look at that review. You'll see why it is one of my favourites. It's a really tough performer to beat by any of the competition. So let's have a look at what we're going to focus in on today, which is the Olight Marauder 2. I haven't seen, and I'm not aware of anybody or any other manufacturer doing anything remotely like this. Let's have a look why. We've got this rather strange design here on the head, and what this is, this outer array here will provide a flood beam, and the middle fisheye type lens with a little LED that we can see reflecting back at us tucked down there in the middle will give us a thrower, and we move between both modes by simply pressing that little button as we can flick from one to the other. And as we can see when we're doing that, as well as if I touch the power button there, we can see this display lights up for us in the middle. On the right hand side is our battery level, and on the left hand side is the power level when we operate it. There are two rather important safety features on this light that are worth mentioning. The first one is the automatic lockout at 30 seconds, and the second one is, don't think you can see, yes you can just about see them, these little sensors there. They will sense when something's in too close a proximity to the torch, and if it's on, it will dim it down. And of course the lockout here will prevent it from being accidentally switched on. So there's two safeguards there, and to be honest, that's really nicely well thought out. The last thing you want is this coming on in your pocket, or if it does, you do want it dimming itself down. I mean, it gets very hot. In terms of the automatic lockout, what we have to do to operate it is just twizzle that around 90 degrees. Then the power button becomes active. And as we move between the modes, we can adjust the power. Now, I don't know whether you just quickly saw that there. Let me turn it back onto the. That's on the throw mode. Now it's letting us go to full power on the throw. If I turn it over to the flood, so the sensor kicked in, and it will drop it down for us. I can't actually get it on full power in the house. The proximity sensors are picking up the beam, bouncing off the wall, and it's kicking in and dimming it down. But we'll have a look at that on the outside, and I'll show you how impressive the outputs are with this. In terms of its secondary kind of option, or the thing that Olight are kind of mentioning quite a bit about on their web pages, it also acts as a power bank. We've got a USB-C port there. That's for both charging purposes and operating it as a power bank, with a little trapdoor there that closes. That is waterproof and dust resistance as well, and this is waterproof, IPX8, and drop resistant to 1 metre, and that is including that little port at the back. Power wise, the power bank is inbuilt within there, which is three 21700 batteries in there, and it comes with your power lead that will either for charging purposes or for using it as a power bank. Olight do say that it will charge in 2.5 hours as well. It's not going to do that by plugging a normal USB-C into your computer, you would have to be using, you know, USB-C fast charging or the adapter that Olight have provided. And I think that's about it really, isn't it, from the externals. So let's have a look at the performance, and we, as mentioned, with having the two modes, there's two things we've got to look at. So we'll deal with the easy one first, which is going to be the spotlight. We've got the 7 levels there, running from 50 lumens at the bottom up to 850. It'll hold its 300 lumens, which it'll run at for 11 hours and 40 minutes. It's only once we start going above that any type of thermal step down starts to occur, which is 500 lumens is going to run. Well, it's hardly worth mentioning the step down, is it? At 360 minutes. 650 lumens, 115 minutes. And 850 lumens, 20 minutes. And the run times there in total. Yeah, you can see what we're saying there. That's if you left it on, of course. So, you know, you're going to get, say, the 500 lumen setting there. We've got 360 minutes there, 100%, another 25 minutes at 60%, another 15 minutes at 40%, another 80 minutes. You get the drift. Let's jump to the more, perhaps, interesting one. 14,000 lumens, 5 minutes, and then it drops. Now, I have used this. It's you just can't expect this type of torch to be holding those types of powers for extended periods of time. They get hot. But 5 minutes is very respectable, and you'll see when we take that out and I show that to you. The 6400, we're going to get 13 minutes, 3200, 90 minutes, and then it'll hold 1600 lumens without any step down at all. And as you can see there, the run times are quite impressive. But jumping back up to the 14,000 lumens again, we're going to get 5 minutes at its full. If you keep on operating its full, of course, that's going to seriously impact its battery life. So let's take it out and see what it can do. Hi folks, so we're out with the Marauder. I'm starting off on its lowest setting, just at close range at my feet. Not really getting any distance on it, but we wouldn't expect on that power level. So let's start to slowly ramp up. That's level 3 now that we're on. In fact, that alone is perfectly usable. Let's keep on going. Level 4. Level 5. That's getting a lot more impressive, isn't it? Level 6. Level 7. In fact, I think that's just overexposing a touch now. Let me... Yeah, that's just shifting it out to the dog's eyes there. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty accurate representation. Let's jump over to the throw mode and then back. And the throw mode has its adjustable power as well. And I think this shot now kind of shows one of the considerations with the how they've set up this throwing capability. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So you can see it's you know, it's illuminating that perfectly well. But back to our highest mode again. Yeah, it's doing what it's advertised to do, which is you know, you've got your flood, massive flood, and as you can see there, we can't just see down towards the end of that path, but on that setting we can. So I can see when you're using this torch, you'll be flicking from one to the other. Just jumping back now to that throw mode, and let me zoom back out there. One of the problems of creating a thrower without using the traditional reflective lens, instead using that kind of fisheye arrangement that we looked at, you don't get any peripheral spill. Olight are obviously aware of that. I mean, they make perfectly good throwers. In fact, I've got one here, the Warrior Turbo. Let's just put them alongside each other so we can see now the Warrior. That's certainly getting into the distance, isn't it, down the end of the path. But what we do have with the Warrior is this peripheral spill we can see. So yes, you get the spotlight, the really focused beam, but you also get that peripheral spill as well. Whereas jumping back to the Marauder, if the camera will focus, it is. They're jumping back to the Marauder there, there's no peripheral spill at all, whereas there is with the Warrior. So that's something you'll have to bear in mind if you're expecting this particular model of torch to throw as well as it floods. It doesn't compare really with a traditional thrower, but traditional throwers can't do that either, can they? And one consideration with using a torch of this type, i.e. crammed full of LEDs, throwing out 14,000 lumens, is it will get hot. And just while we've been, or just while I've been testing this here, so a couple of minutes, it is getting really hot, really hot. The thermal protection hasn't kicked in yet, so I'll take it for a walk and we'll see what we get. So I'm just looking across the lake here now. Those two trees there are around 100 meters. Let's just zoom in properly so you can see them a little bit better. And again, no peripheral spill. Now, it's pretty open here, there's nothing really around me, no trees, etc, etc, and this is water directly in front of me, and this is where the disadvantage perhaps that I was mentioning concerning this type of throwing design, layout, whatever, perhaps didn't compare too well with a more traditionally designed thrower. When you're in an open area like this, that doesn't actually matter. So let's jump back to our Warrior. And the fact that the Warrior is capable and does throw out a little bit of additional spill, it doesn't make any difference here because there's nothing for that spill to hit and illuminate. So they kind of wind up being fairly equal. Let me see if I can just zoom in a bit more on that. Can I zoom in? Yes, I can. Without blinding myself in the eyes, which I've just done with the other one. Okay. What I'll do now is just move down the side of this lake. We started at 100 meters, probably going out towards 150, something like that. I hope you can see it pretty clearly. Yeah, it's about 150 there. And just quickly whiz back to those two trees that I started on. And this never gets old. Hang on. Let me zoom out, just so you can get the proper effect. That's the same distance, around 100 meters, on the flooder. And as you can see, there's in fact you hardly need really, is there, for the throw mode, unless you're really going to throw some distance on. I mean, you know, most flooders would really struggle at that distance, but as you can see, this one isn't. In fact, let's move down this tree line. excuse the train behind me there. That tree line out there to 150. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Yeah, it's doing that quite easily, isn't it? Versus the throw mode starts to take over at that range, doesn't it? And then back out again. Come a little bit further on. It's getting hot, but no more than what I would have expected. So I'm back on the throw mode. See, we've kind of got to zoom in there too. I've got a pretty good idea of what it's doing. Now I don't think this part's ever going to get old. That's the max flood, and to get a full appreciation of what that's like, I've really got to zoom out so you folks can kind of see the phenomenal output. Really impressive, you know. Holy dear, look at the poor old thrower there. Oh, there's the heat. That's the heat management just kicked in for me. Oh dear, I think that's probably time to there you are. So if I try and re-engage now, it's not going to have it. It's way too hot. And to be honest, as I just mentioned that, I have been using it. I've been out for about 40 minutes now, and I've been re-engaging the turbo at every earliest opportunity. And it says, not today, I need to cool down. At that, I shall go home and share some thoughts when I'm home. Hi folks, I'm back in with the Marauder. I've noticed something unusual when I've been using this, or at least unusual to me, when I've been using this over the last few nights. And what it is, when the proximity sensor engages and the torch is cold, and the obstruction is removed, it will revert back to its preceding power, so full power, and it will jump back up again. If the torch is either already warm or already hot, and you do the same thing and remove the obstruction, then it doesn't automatically go up to full power, and operating this switch here won't do anything at all. What you could do is either turn it off and back on, or change the modes, and then it goes back up to full power again. How long it stays on full power, having done that, depends on how hot it was in the first place and how much it's cooled down. I can only assume that that is some type of safety feature built in within this light, in that if it's already hot or warm and the proximity sensor alerts, it's got that additional safety, and that if the obstruction is removed, it won't power back up. I've no idea, I don't know. All I can say is that that's what it does. On the subject of heat, yes, it gets hot, and you would expect it to get hot, you know, given that number of LEDs in there, but not excessively so. I mean, I've been out tonight 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that, an hour perhaps, and I've really caned it. I've been using that full power whenever I could, until whenever the heat management kicked in and knocked it back down again. And just on that note there, you can see I'm still got half the battery power there, so that's not too bad. Okay, one last thing to mention, I never actually explained in any of the videos why the spot is square, and that's because with this torch not using the traditional type reflector, rather this lens, what it is doing is focusing the actual LED itself, which of course are square, hence we see the square, as opposed to a torch with a traditional reflector, and then what we can see is a spot, a round spot from the reflector. Depends whether that bothers you or not. The reason I didn't mention is it doesn't particularly bother me whether it's round or square. So overall, really pleased with it. Immense fun tonight, as you can see. That's just a ridiculous amount of light being thrown from this. Okay folks, thank you. Okay, so we're nice and cool now. We're on full power. Let's just kick off the proximity sensor. There we go. Back up again full. Whoa, sorry about that. Back up again full. But it is nice and cool now, and this is what I've noticed. I'll let it get hot and then I'll come back out and do the same. Okay, so now I've let it get nice and hot. See, full power. Proximity sensor. It doesn't auto kick back up, and nor can I twizzle the dial to make it go back up. Unless I change modes, that then will kind of reset it until the heat sensor kicks back in again.